Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're getting into something really practical, how to agree and disagree politely in English.
Right. We're looking at a conversation between two podcast hosts, Jack and Emma, from the 1% Fluent English Podcast.
Exactly. And they shared some, really useful tips and phrases. So the mission for this deep dive is basically to pull out those concrete techniques.
Yeah, techniques that can help listeners communicate more effectively, more respectfully, maybe avoid some awkward moments.
Definitely. And while their podcast is for English learners, these skills are, pretty universal, aren't they?
Absolutely. It's about positive conversations.
Yeah.
So they kick things off with something maybe we don't think about enough: polite agreement.
Right. It's not just saying yes. They emphasize showing respect, even for simple ideas.
Mm-hmm. And Jack suggested phrases like, that's a good point. Simple, but it does something, right? It validates the speaker.
Makes them feel heard.
Yeah.
And Emma added things like, I see what you mean.
That makes sense.
Yeah, those signal you're actually listening, not just waiting to talk.
Which is key. And there was that slightly more nuanced one Emma mentioned.
Oh, I agree with you to some extent.
That's the one. It's quite useful, isn't it? It lets you agree on part of something.
Right, without maybe committing fully or setting up a big disagreement later. It keeps the door open.
Exactly. Sort of acknowledges common ground.
So that's agreement. But then the trickier part often comes with disagreement.
Well, yeah. That's where conversations can, go off the rails a bit if you're not careful.
Jack and Emma really stress that how you disagree is crucial.
Absolutely. It's not what you say sometimes, but the way you say it. They contrasted something blunt like.
No, you're wrong, which just shuts things down, doesn't it?
Totally. Versus the alternatives they offered. Like,
I see your point, but that little but makes all the difference.
It softens it. Signals you've heard them first. Or, I respect your opinion, however. Same idea, right?
Acknowledgement first. There was also Emma's story about her teacher.
Ah, yes. When she said, that's not right.
Yeah, and the reaction wasn't great. It taught her a lesson, she said.
Mm-hmm. Led her to phrases like, I thought about it differently, which is much gentler.
Or that collaborative one. Can I share another idea? I quite like that.
Me too. It frames it as adding something, not attacking their idea.
And they also talked about tone of voice, didn't they? Smiling, keeping it calm.
Crucial. Because even polite words can sound harsh if the delivery is aggressive. You want to keep the conversation flowing.
Not build walls. Okay, so what about those moments where you're not fully agreeing or disagreeing, kind of in the middle?
Yeah, they had strategies for that too. Using phrases like, that's interesting.
Or that's an interesting perspective.
Right. It acknowledges the point without you having to immediately take a side. Gives you a moment to think.
Keeps it smooth. And saying something like, I hadn't thought about it that way.
Oh, that's a great one. Shows real open-mindedness, doesn't it?
Yeah. And Jack and Emma pointed out, this kind of politeness just makes conversations better, more enjoyable, builds trust.
Definitely. You feel safer sharing ideas if you know the other person will handle them respectfully, even if they see things differently.
They had that analogy, too, about the garden.
Yeah, that conversations are like a garden, and roughness can
break the flowers. Yeah, quite evocative. It highlights how fragile good communication can feel sometimes.
So true. And to make it really clear, they did that little role play.
Yes, that was helpful. Seeing the phrases in action, Jack said something like,
I think learning English is easy if you just watch TV shows. A common idea.
And Emma didn't just shoot it down. She said, I see your point, Jack. Watching TV shows is fun.
See? Agreement first.
But actually, I think we also need to practice speaking. Gentle counterpoint.
Perfect example. And then they swapped, Emma said.
I believe learning grammar rules is the most important part of English.
And Jack responded, I understand where you're coming from, Emma. Grammar is important.
Again, acknowledging the point.
However, I think using English daily is even more important, offering a different perspective, politely.
It really shows that pattern. Validate, then differentiate. Makes the disagreement feel much less like a fight.
Yeah, more like exploring different angles together.
And then they gave us the cheat sheet, which is super handy. The lists of phrases.
Mm-hmm. Should we quickly run through those? For agreeing, they had things like,
I totally agree with you. Pretty direct.
that makes a lot of sense.
I see your point. We mentioned that one.
Exactly. I was thinking the same thing. Good for strong agreement.
And you're absolutely right. So clear ways to show you're on the same page.
Right. And then for disagreeing politely.
The classics. I see your point, but
I respect your opinion, however.
that's interesting, but I feel differently.
I understand, but I have a different idea.
In that collaborative one again, can I share another perspective?
All really good options. Honest, but kind, as they put it.
It's about finding that balance, isn't it? Expressing yourself without shutting the other person down.
Precisely. And Jack mentioned using these at work.
Right. So it's not just for, language learning chats. It's for everyday life professional situations.
Totally. And Emma's point about it showing emotional intelligence, I thought that was spot on.
Yeah. Understanding how your words land on others.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it.
So it's not just about knowing the phrases, is it? It's about actually using them. Practice.
Definitely. Emma talked about practicing in the mirror.
Yeah. Talk to herself. It sounds a bit funny, maybe, but it builds that muscle memory.
You feel less awkward when you need the phrase for real.
And Jack's example was hilarious, practicing on his broccoli.
Broccoli, I see your point, but I'm eating pizza tonight.
Exactly. Shows you can practice anywhere, lighten it up. The point is just getting comfortable.
So when you're in a real conversation, it just comes out more naturally.
Mm-hmm. And they were clear that mistakes are okay, part of the process.
Yeah, baby steps, they called them. Emma's other metaphor was good too.
About mistakes being like watering the tree, even when it's messy.
Nice. Reframes errors as growth, not failure.
And they wrapped up the main discussion with that lovely bridge metaphor.
Ah, yes. Polite communication builds a bridge between minds.
And phrases like, I see your point. I respect your idea. Those are the bricks.
Really sums up the constructive power of communicating this way.
So I guess bringing it all together, mastering this isn't just about sounding nice.
No, it's fundamental for clear communication, for strong relationships, work, home, everywhere.
And it really boils down to those small steps Jack and Emma talked about. Like maybe pick one phrase today.
Yeah, just one. Something like, that's an interesting point, or I see what you mean, but try it out.
See how it feels, how it changes the conversation. Maybe even,
Talk to your breakfast.
why not? Little low stakes practice.
The core message seems to be small shifts, big impact. You can do this.
Definitely. So perhaps the thought to leave listeners with is, what kind of communication bridges will you start building or maybe reinforcing today?